Okay, that's great. Hi, I'm Mark Roberts. Welcome to my YouTube station. Hello everyone, welcome to the YouTube station. I'm here with Adam.
Hello.
You may recognise him from this video and also his bands, the Physics House Band, the Go Team, Wes Banderson. And yeah, we've just been kind of reamping and doing a load of stuff with synths, and thought it'd be interesting to make a little video about this. The main thing we've been doing is kind of reamping synths. And why would you do that?
So what we've been doing today is basically two things. Firstly, taking kind of MIDI I've already written in my Logic projects, and then taking analog synths and running the MIDI from the Logic project through the synth and then out into amps. And the second thing we've been doing is taking some of the pre-recorded stuff I've done in Logic and just reamping it. So some of the soft synths I've been using, like Arteria stuff, and even like the native Logic retro synth, taking that and running that through an amp as well. And generally why I enjoy doing that and why you should really kind of like explore it is when you put it through an amp, the actual kind of thing of like something pushing air against a microphone, generally you're going to get kind of firstly a more interesting and unique sound than just what's in the box, because you know you can EQ the amp in different ways, use different mics, use room mics. Suddenly you've got this whole other palette of interesting things you can do. And also a cool thing that we've been kind of doing today as well is you can use like an amped synth and stick that underneath like a software synth, and that way you get kind of, I guess, like the directness and like the tone color of the software synth you really like, but the analog synth coming like actually through an amp is going to give you that kind of like bigger body, bigger warmth. And yeah, the combination leads to kind of like what I would say is a bigger, fatter sound. Yeah. And it's just interesting to experiment with that kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of gives it more reality, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, yeah, both things, like taking a software synth that you perhaps really like the sound of, and the act of putting it through an amp or something does kind of give it a little bit of, uniqueness and make it, unique to you, but it also gives it a sense of reality. Sometimes you can struggle with software synths to kind of get them to sit in, especially if they're in the context of other like more band type instruments.
Yeah,
like this project's
definitely
got like real drums on it and that kind of thing. It's good if you're on a budget as well, because with time constraints and studio costs and everything, like Adam's been at home, he's written all this stuff, found sounds that he likes. Some of them we kept, and they, like we said, we just reamped them and gave them a bit more vibe and character. And then other things, when you really know you specifically wanted, like say a Juno or something, some of the synths Adam had, but also could borrow, and it was literally just sat there kind of running the MIDI in and then us reamping it. So if you imagine how much time it would take for us to capture all the performances, and or program them, it might be stuff that you can physically play, but you could program it all. And then it's just a matter of, and this is why it's so fun as well, it's just a matter of finding the sounds and then experimenting a bit. And it doesn't take too long to like run off a couple of different versions with different amps.
No, not at all. If you've got your stuff already written and you're playing it with the synths, suddenly you've got both hands to kind of play with the cutoff, the release. You're not restricted to just playing the part. And I think it opens up the possibilities of like a performance with a synthesizer when you're able to utilize all the parameters that are available to you on the front of it. And that's what we've been doing today. Yeah,
that's it. And pedals and stuff like that. You can get pedals and other sort of hardware units involved, and be free to tweak those as it's going through and get some really interesting sounds.
Yeah. So you've already done perhaps like the actual notes of the performance, and there's a whole different performance which is as that stuff's playing through. Playing with pedals, playing around with the delay, kind of opening, closing the room size on reverbs. There's so much you can do.
The possibilities are indeed endless.
They are endless. There is literally no end.
Yeah, and again, you can layer those up with the stuff you've got. You know, you might find you really like this certain sound that you got, and then you reamped it, and you A/B, and it perhaps doesn't completely win over the initial sound, but you can put a bit of that amp in, or just a bit of that room mic or something.
Totally, it just expands. It expands the sound from this kind of, there's just something to be said for the advantage of having kind of something big that's pushing air, as opposed to something that just exists as kind of ones and zeros inside the computer. Like you can really tell the difference when you've got something that's like this like tactile element sitting alongside, you know, what you've got in the box.
You don't necessarily have to come to a recording studio to do it. If you've got an interface, you could just do it in a rehearsal room. If you've got none of those facilities, you could think about putting your synth through amp sims and things like that and seeing what kind of sounds you get. But I guess the fundamental thing is it helps creativity, because you don't get hung up on finding the perfect synth patch for a certain part of a song. You can get in the ballpark and then kind of worry about it later and just get the performance down, the important stuff.
Yeah.
It's me, Mark. I'm in the live room now, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about the amps we use, the cabs we use, how we mic them up. It's really similar to micing up a guitar, really, in this case. We did a stereo rig. We had 2 amps in the other room. I think it was a Fender Bassman and a Selmer, and we were running them both clean for the kind of predominant parts of it and the bits I'm going to show you later on in the video. But you could run whatever you like. It's kind of not important. But I thought it might be interesting to explain why we did a stereo wig, and how we kind of mic'd it up and stuff. So 2 cabs here, a 414 and 57 with the capsules aligned on both cabs, and then a pair of ribbons as room mics at the back. There's various ways to split it. There's a couple of splitter boxes that we were using. If you haven't got any of that stuff, a lot of things like delay pedals, even tuners have got 2 outputs on them, or your synth itself might have a stereo output, just go straight into the 2 amps. So if you've got the opportunity, it's useful to record 2 amps, because as I said, you can give yourself some sort of stereo information. If you've got a stereo synth, it obviously makes sense. But also if you're doing something that's mono, you might find it gives you a stereo image, having those 2 slightly different sounds. And you also might find that it just gives you 2 options. You could use one or the other, or you could blend the 2 as a mono source as well. The room mics are the thing that really helps give it that kind of reality, and that can be really useful having those, and you can obviously do all kinds of processing and things to those as well.
What you could also do is just use the room mics as well.
You could just use the room mics, actually.
Sometimes you don't want to have that like super direct, especially for maybe pads. It helps to just use the room mics, and it's almost, you almost engineered kind of like reverb in the room.
And that's a good point, actually. You could go to an interesting space and record some real reverbs and stuff, like reverbs are real, but you know what I mean, like you could take your synth and just blast it out through an amp in a sports hall or something, or like that, or a church hall. Yes. And you know, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Try it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having
really
me. Fun. That's us for now in the studio. I will show you at the end of this video just a little example of a kind of before and after with some of the synth sounds that we've done, if that's okay with you.
That's right.
That's okay with him. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I hope you found this interesting. Leave comments and stuff, and I'll try and reply to them. So as if by magic, here I am at home. I've shaved, and I'm going to show you some of these synth tracks and what we did with them, so you can put it into context a little bit. So here we are, really. This is our original DI synth here. This was a Moog, I think. So again, this was played out of Adam's Logic system through the MIDI into the Moog itself, and then we took a DI into a preamp in the studio. So this is that. So it sounds pretty cool. And then we've got our 2 guitar amps here, the high watt on the left here and the Fender on the right. So I'll just show you what some of those sound like. So this is the, I'll play a bit of the DI and then I'll switch over to the 57 to start with. Okay, and here's the 421. Okay, here's the Fender. Let's go from the DI again. And the 414. Bear in mind, when you're hearing the difference between the two mics there, I think more of the difference that you're hearing is probably to do with the mic position. The 57 was just on the edge of the dust cap and the cone, so that's the middle of the cone that it's right on. So that's going to be the brighter of the two mics inherently because of where it's positioned. And then the 414, the capsule was aligned and it was just off from that, so it's going to be a darker sound anyway. So some of what you're hearing is the mic, but some of it is purely the position. As well as that, we had some ribbon mics that it's not something I normally do actually, but I put them in figure of 8 and actually pointed them so the null of the 8 was facing the amps. And the theory or the reason for me doing this was so that I was literally just picking up the walls. Maybe slightly useless information because I'm not able to A/B and show you what it'd been like if they were facing, but for quite a small room I think we got quite a good ambient sound, so it's something I'm going to explore a bit more. Here's that. Okay, so in this case both the amps were run quite clean. We didn't put any kind of crazy effects or anything like that on it, and I think this is mainly because Adam probably liked the sound and just wanted to give it that reality kind of thing that we've been talking about. And now there's quite a kind of palette there, if you like. We've got these different sounding amps, and we've got the DI that we can use as well if we want to, and we've got the room mics. So I'm just going to have a little play and show you just to give you the idea of some of the kind of potential behind this. So there we've got the amps panned left and right, and we've got the DI still there. If I mute the DI, okay, so that's what we've got, just the amps. That could be the sound you're looking for. And then we can kind of compare those. If I go DI. So it's immediately got a very different character to it. Let's blend in some room mic and see what it does there. Yeah, so that for me is in this context anyways, really kind of makes a big difference. That's the most kind of interesting one, I think, in terms of giving it loads of reality. But even just the close mics themselves make them, give it a very different character than if we just used the DI. So there's loads of potential here. We could do things like the DI and just use the room mics. So say we really liked our DI and we just wanted to put some kind of really realistic room sound on it. Let's listen to that. So yeah, even with like a small room like that one is, or quite a small space, a good sounding space, it kind of adds some dimension to it, and you could imagine all the possibilities with the different size rooms and stuff like that. So there we go. Hope you found that interesting. There's loads of stuff there that's obviously giving us loads of options in terms of kind of stereo information. We can process this stuff more later and in terms of EQ and effects and whatever, but also this is illustrating a fairly simple way to record it as well. We could have got guitar pedals involved, like Adam was saying, because he was just putting the MIDI into the Moog and then we were recording it. He had the ability to play with the parameters and stuff, which he did quite a bit as we were reamping stuff. So there's absolutely tons of potential there and loads of stuff you can do. Yes, I'm going to go now. Bye bye. Thank you. So